Hi everyone. Just kind of getting started. I was kind of letting everybody um get going here. So I think we're good. I'm just kind of checking my settings. um, Let me know whether you're watching this via YouTube or on Facebook. Let me know that you can see, I'm gonna adjust my camera a little bit. Um, you can see me and hear me. Hi, everyone. Oh, awesome. So we have Facebook and YouTube, which must mean they're both working. That is step one. I'm a little bit new to this specific software where it's streaming like all the things all the time. So I'm just gonna give like a minute or two, just let everybody kind of join. Hopefully everything, it should have like notified all the different stuff. So that's cool. So I'm just going to check on Facebook and check all my stuff, make sure it's working. And then we will go ahead and get started and get going. It sure looks like it might be working. Yay. that that is a good start. Okay. When things are working, that's good. So anyway, so this live should be streaming, like I said, through YouTube and through Facebook. What's cool about this software is no matter which platform you're watching on, I should be able. Oh, yay, it's working. That's good. I should be able to see comments off both ends. So if you comment on Facebook or you comment on YouTube, I should be able to see it. And kind of when we start, the only thing is you guys, until I put like the chat up on the screen, which I'll do once we start like maybe getting questions and things like that. My camera does not seem very like level, but we're just going to ignore it for right now. We're just going to pretend that it is. You guys, like it, if a YouTube person asks a question, I don't think the Facebook person can see it. So I'll be sure to either put the messages up on the screen, which I can do, or I can put the chat up. That way you guys can all see. And I also tend to, read the questions as well. So let me know if anything like funky happens, in case, like I said, I'm still a little new to this streaming. Slightly. So this live chat is, I'm going to be talking about tonight's webinar. So tonight's webinar is, I will be discussing my philosophy for distance training, really my philosophy for working with dogs, agility in general. It all kind of plays in together. So I'm going to be going over, it's not going to be a webinar as far as I'm not going to be going over like, here's this exercise, then you move to this exercise, like here's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I will talk about some of my foundation exercises. I will talk about how those play into, creating and helping your dog be more confident with distance. That will play into later, more advanced type stuff. Because it all kind of works together. So I will talk about, some of my foundation type stuff, and then some of my more advanced exercises and things like that. But it's not going to be a webinar it's here's the first step and this is how you teach distance, and this is the second step and this is how you teach. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to be a class on follow 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's how you teach distance. It's going to be more of my philosophy on it. And my philosophy on distance training is very much, my philosophy on distance training revolves around the dog. It very much revolves around, and that's where I say it's my training philosophy in general. I mean, this is kind of what, excuse me, what I do with my dogs in general for training, not just like, here's how I train my dog, and then, oh, now this is a different way I train that is now focused on distance, right? It all kind of mushes together, right? But my philosophy of distance training, and like I said, training in general, very much focuses on the dog's mental and emotional state, what they need, how they learn, what my dog needs to learn the best, and I view it like, all humans, all people, learn differently. Some people learn by needing to do the thing, whatever that exercise is, they need to do it. You know what I mean? They have to hands on, they need to participate, they need to do the thing. Some people learn by listening to someone. Some people learn by watching someone do it or reading. We all have different ways that we learn and different ways that work best for us. So I view it as, I'm very much a visual person. I need to see the thing. To learn the thing, I need to see the thing. So I can listen to someone talk about how to do something. I can read about it, and I can grasp it sometimes, and sometimes I can't. I need to see it in order for it to make sense to me. And I firmly believe that dogs are the same way. There are going to be dogs who learn differently, and they all should have a training method or a system or whatever you want to call it that adapts to how that dog learns, that works with how that dog learns. And that is very much my goals and my philosophy when it comes to working with any of my own personal dogs or any of, my students or anything like that, is to first figure out what does your dog need? How will they best learn this skill, or how will they best absorb this information? And so with all of my training sessions, every time I take my dog out into the yard, every time I take my dog and I'm going to go work on this skill. So let's say the skill that I'm going to work on is teaching my dog a switch, which for me and my dogs, a switch means for them to turn away from me. It's a change of direction cue. So let's say I'm going to go out into the yard, and that's what I'm training for this session or this day or whatever it is, for that training session. I'm going to go teach a switch. That focus, that I'm going to go teach a switch focus, is always secondary to what my dog's mental and emotional state is. This always comes first. Always. So if I go out into the yard and I really want to work on switch, but I can tell like my dog is not in the right headspace, or maybe they're just not getting it that day. Maybe it's not, the way I'm doing it is not working for them, or whatever. Something is not like, it's not cohesive. I'm going to stop teaching this because this means more, right? So if I'm trying to teach that switch and they're not getting it or whatever, number one, you want to take that step back and be like, okay, I need to evaluate how I'm teaching this skill. And perhaps my dog needs targets, or maybe I'm using a toy and my dog needs food. Maybe I'm using a hoop and my dog would do better with a cone or a jump or a tunnel. I mean, the possibilities are endless as far as, excuse me, I was just scrolling to make sure I didn't miss anything. What you might need to change that training session, but if I go out to go work my dog and maybe I can just tell, like, they're just not into it, like I set them up, I've got my rewards already. I've got my training thing set up for teaching my switch or whatever it is I'm doing. And my dog is just kind of like not there. I'm not going to push through that training session. I'm going to stop and be like, okay, my dog is definitely not engaged, with whatever this is. My dog's focus is not here. So I'm going to completely switch, and my training session might have gone from, I'm going to teach my dog this switch, or I'm going to teach my dog a more efficient path, or whatever my thing was, to, I'm just going to come out and maybe I'm going to ask my dog to sit down, throw the ball. And that's my training session, and it's done, and give my dog that space. Right. Oh, thank you, Marcy. Yes. Much better. Yes. We're definitely on the, I don't know. Is it the downhill? It's downhill. Downhill's better, right? Down. Uphill, downhill. We're on the good end. So how that plays into especially distance work, and I will go into this in extreme detail for tonight's webinar, is distance work is a very mentally, what's the word I'm looking for? It's mentally hard. It's mentally, in this case, you're trending upward. Yes, there we go. I was like, as I said downhill, I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not going downhill. Anyway, it's mentally hard. It's for all dogs. I mean, it's mentally doing, especially if you're doing lots and lots and lots of distance work. If your training session really revolves around tons and tons of distance work, and that's like a real big focus for you, it is a lot mentally for the dogs. And so my philosophy and my foundations with distance work is, that we're always looking at taxing. Yes, mentally taxing. That's a good word, Marcy. I'm always looking for my dog's mental and emotional state first, and then the skills second. And if the big thing I see with dogs is if you value that mental emotional state over skill, and you show your dogs that you value the mental emotional state, you know what I mean? Like very much so, if I take Wally out and he is not in the headspace to do whatever it is I want to do, he's just not there. And I honor that basically and say, okay, you know what? You're not here today. That's totally fine. I have those days too. And maybe we just play ball, right? Maybe I do some really simple, like, nose touch, play ball. You know what I mean? Like very easy, simple. And sometimes even that it's just not there. And so we just go out and we play ball. We play ball, or if I have food, maybe I throw food on the ground, and foraging behavior, like snuffle mat, outside snuffle mat, throw food into the grass and let him just have a day. I find that the more that you honor your dog's mental and emotional state, the more success you will have, not just talking distance, but agility in general, right? Because your dog knows that they can trust you, that if they're not in that frame of mind, or they're not feeling good, or whatever it may be, that you're not going to push through, right? You're not going to be like, no, we're going to do this thing, and you're going to do the thing. That is huge. And I will talk about it a lot of that in detail tonight. Excuse me, with the webinar. How I train distance is very much distance as a way to proof skills I have already taught. And this is where I kind of where people are like, what? This doesn't make any sense. When I say I do not go out and set up an exercise and say, I'm going to work distance on this. I do not teach distance. That is not a skill I teach. That is not something that I go out and say, I have this exercise and we are teaching distance, or I am working on my distance, or I am da-da-da-da-da. I do not teach distance to my dogs. I use distance as a way to proof skills I've already taught. So if we go back to my switch, my dog knows how to do my switch, and we're working on the switch, and I'm getting to a point now where I want to proof that switch. I will use distance as a way to proof that skill, but I do not go out and teach distance, if that makes sense. And that is a lot of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Is if you change your mindset and use distance as a way to proof something that you are already teaching, in my opinion, you will go further faster, because you're going to put your dog's mental and emotional state. So you're going to be constantly building confidence. You're constantly working on your connection. You're going to be clarifying your cues. That's a huge thing that we talk about in the Fluid Motion coaching group all the time, is making sure your cues are clear. Because if your cues aren't clear, if you aren't clear with them, then your dog sure can't be clear with them, right? And that can erode into your confidence. Like it's kind of like it's a circle, or like an infinity loop. I have a shirt that a friend of mine made that's awesome, that has this infinity loop that has all these things that you need, all these things to get to distance, right? And if you go out and you're taking your dog out and you're, going out to your yard or your training class or whatever, and you're in the mindset of, I'm going to go and I'm going to work distance on this exercise or this sequence or whatever it is you're doing, you get so focused on the distance that you don't see that your dog doesn't have the skill. Okay. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing that we're going to sit and talk about tonight, and how to see that, how to read that, that you should be working on. This is all my opinion. This is just how I do distance with my dogs. You should be, in my opinion, working on the skill, working on the switch. So if we look at our hierarchy again, if we're going down our little list, at the very top is your dog's mental emotional state. Next should be, I'm working on this skill. We're going to keep using switch for this, but I'm working on switch. And then down here is, I'm going to proof that switch with distance. But if I'm down here proofing it, but my dog is not doing the switch efficiently, like I can tell that maybe they're slowing down, so they're not going as fast as I'm adding, I add that distance to proof it. Now all of a sudden my dog is slow, or their turn is really wide, or they're knocking the bar. You're not focusing on this anymore. You need to come back up here and focus on the skill, because obviously there's a hole here, right? And so you have to stop the proofing here to fix the hole here, right? And also paying attention that mental and emotional comes on top of all of that, right? That's how I do distance in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it, and a lot more that I'll talk about tonight, but in a nutshell, that's what it looks like. So when I go out into a training session, in my head, I kind of have like basically a hierarchy, or a list of like, this is first, this is second, this is third. Because distance, in my opinion, should be used as a way to test and proof the skill that you've taught, not as a separate skill. And I see that a lot now, is that we teach, distance has become, here's this separate skill that we teach our dogs. And in my opinion, they should go together. The skill, distance proofs that skill. Distance tests that skill. That's what you're using distance for. When I want to make things harder for my dog, but I want to see, does my dog fully understand how to enter a set of weave poles? I'm going to move 2 feet away. Can my dog still enter those weave poles? And not just can my dog enter those weave poles. Does my dog enter those weave poles confidently? Like, there's no head checks. There's no like, like weave. Like, they do it with pizzazz, have they maintained their speed in the weave poles? Is their footwork still good in the weave poles? All of that. Like, it's not just, hey, look, my dog weaved from 50 feet away. Yes, your dog weaved, but they head checked you 4 times. They slowed way, 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 way down, and their footwork was all over the board, because they don't have the confidence to do those weave poles at the distance you are asking, right? And so everything is done in like a nice little stair step. Here's my skill, my weave poles, and I've worked them, I've trained them, done all the around the clock stuff, all my foundation work, all my thingies. And now I'm going to start incorporating, like, okay, can you do it while I'm, ahead of that first pole? Can you do it when I'm behind that first pole? Can you do it weaving at me? Can you do it weaving away? Like, all those things are all proofing, and distance folds into that. So distance is part of my foundations, but it's not a separate, I got to go work this, and I'm going to go work this distance skill. It's all mushed into those weave poles, right? If that makes sense. And that goes with all my stuff. When I'm sequencing with my dogs and they do their first pinwheel, well, I want to make sure they can do that pinwheel from all the handling positions, all the things, right? And then we start adding distance to that. And it's all in these nice little chunks, right? So that's what the webinar is covering tonight, and goes into detail. More than likely, I think Jimmy will be here too. Otherwise, you just get me. But that's what we're going to be talking about. And I'm very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about distance work. I'm very passionate about dogs doing distance work that love it. That you can tell when the handler says go or out and they're moving away from that handler, that the dog is like, oh, yeah, I know how to do that. You know, I'm passionate about those dogs. I love watching dogs that are confidently going out there being like, oh my gosh, you know, she thinks that this is hard. It's not hard. You know what I mean? Like those, I like watching that. And I don't care what speed your dog is doing it. I don't, you know, distance work, just, I think sometimes when people hear me say, you know, you want your dog to confidently go out there, you want your dog to basically, yeah, have confidence is what I talk about a lot. They immediately attribute it to, oh, well, the dog needs to be fast. No, no. Dogs of every speed and every size can run out and do that sequence of those weep pulls or whatever it is confidently. That does not mean at Mach 10. That means at whatever speed they're doing it at, right? Whatever speed is for that dog. And the other thing I'm passionate about that again, we'll talk about tonight is not every dog wants to do the distance that their handler may have the goal for, right? And that's where, again, like distance work is a mentally taxing, you know, mentally, it's hard for dogs. It is not just go run, do the things. It's mentally there. And that's why I push so hard for your dog to have confidence and for distance to be used as a proofing thing or a proofing method, as opposed to teaching as a separate skill. Because if you just teach your dog like go do the thing, eventually they get tired. And I have found that dogs who are taught, you know, who do distance work, but the focus is upon, you know, the mental emotional state, the confident level of the dog, all that is done first. Those dogs do distance longer. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about tonight is sometimes, and I mean, I have one of those dogs, you know, like I love distance work. Anybody who knows me, I like doing stakes, you know, NADAC. I enjoy it. It's fun for me. But that does not mean it's fun for all my dogs. You know what I mean? Like I always respect what my dog wants to do. And I have, you know, high drive border collies and Wally's a border whippet. And Allie is an amazing, fast, cool border collie that does not want to do anything beyond a starter stakes level. Like that is, and that's fantastic. Like that amount of distance is freaking cool. Do I really want to be in like a super stakes level? And this is all talking NADAC. Yes, I do. But I have to respect what she needs over the top of what my ego probably wants, which is to be in super stakes because I enjoy that. I like the thrill of that really big distance stuff. It's super fun for me. She does not. You know, and her aunt was Try, who thrived on super stakes level distance. Nothing made her happier than to be 80, 90 feet away. That was her bread and butter. And Allie is her niece. And Allie's like, no, no, thank you, ma'am. And I have to respect that. And Marcy says, starter stakes dogs last year, perfect example, all speeds, but all loved it. Exactly. It's not just about like, oh, that dog's really fast, so they must be super confident. I can right in my head think of tons of fast dogs doing distance work that are not confident, and they're blazing fast, but they do not have confidence. They're just really fast, if that makes sense. So part of like tonight's webinar, I'll also be talking about recognizing your dog's limits. You know what I mean? And recognizing that not all dogs are going to want to do big distance. If that's one of your goals, and not all dogs are going to want to do distance all the time. I'm working privately with someone who desperately wants to earn a natch, and she's very picky about her chances courses because her dog has a limit, and elite chances is that limit. So there's definitely elite chances courses that are beyond, like her dog doesn't feel comfortable doing it. So we really pick and choose her courses. And she's very good about it because she would rather that her dog's mental and emotional state is kept up here than trying to push it through a chances course that makes her very uncomfortable. Because then what that does is it erodes back. It's that whole back, that like nice little circle or loop or whatever. It erodes back into the confidence. So if we push her through a chances course that really, really is mentally exhausting for her, hard, and it erodes back into that confidence, well, now the next trial she goes to, and maybe it's an easy chances course with a distance that works better for the dog and a sequence that works better for the dog. Well, now maybe she's not going to want to do it because we eroded that trust previously. And I am very passionate about that. I love my distance work. I love everything about it, but I am very passionate about teaching it, how it's taught, and trying to think of the word. Honoring is the best thing I can think of. Is respecting, I guess, honoring the dog's needs and honoring their emotional and mental state, right? That's a huge thing with me, and honestly, that's a huge thing. Beyond, there's just someone randomly like going back and forth in our driveway. Oh, and now they're pulling in, so this is going to be super exciting on live. Oh yeah, dogs are going to go absolutely insane. We're just going to pretend that maybe they won't knock on the door. This is going to be fun. No, Jimmy, if you're watching, there's someone here. Anyway, oh my gosh. Okay, no, you're fine. Oh yeah, this is going to be cool. I'm also watching my brother's dogs. So, hey. We're about to the end of the live anyway, but I do want to ask, if you guys have questions, let me know. Now is the perfect time to go ahead and, oh my gosh, ask any questions you have. I did pin the link up above for tonight's webinar. If you want to check it out. If you are part of the coaching group, if you're part of the Fluid Motion coaching group, your link is getting sent out today. You do not need to sign up. It is included in your membership. Okay, now he's gone. Okay, well, see, that wasn't too bad. I thought it was going to be much more chaotic. Anyway, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them now and I can answer questions. And maybe now I don't have to like cut this off really fast. Anyway, ask any questions and the link is in the chat. It's pinned, I think, up top. I'm also doing a webinar on Sunday that talks about the weave method I use, which is weave method. And I will talk about how I trained Wally with it, how we actually improved Trip's weave pulls with it. Anybody who knew Trip back a while ago, he was having some weave issues, and knock on wood, pretty much fixed all of them with Amber's method. So Amber very nicely said I could talk about her method and how I went through it with her, how I taught Wally he would use her method from beginning to end, and I love his weave pulls. I retrained him with Trip. That webinar is on Sunday at noon. And there will be multiple videos of Wally. Like I videoed his entire progression from starting with, the foundations of the 2-3-4 method all the way through proofing them and all that sort of stuff. So there'll be lots of videos of him like learning and mistakes and talking about how I use it and little things I may have done differently and all that sort of stuff. And then tonight's webinar, because I know we've got a whole bunch of new people who are probably like, why is she like yelling at dogs? We'll be talking about my distance training philosophy, some of the foundation stuff I use exercise wise, and just kind of everything I talked about here as far as how I train it, what I do. All that sort of stuff. And I'm very passionate about, like I said, I'm very passionate about distance work. And I personally really enjoy seeing dogs who, are veterans and they're getting up there in age and they're still wanting to do the distance work. And that doesn't always happen. If some dogs, as they get older, they're like, I don't want to do it. And I really like seeing dogs who have that base of confidence and connection and all that sort of stuff that they, and I never moved that overlay. That's sad. I just now noticed, I'm like, oh, because I had this one right here to put up there. Look at, see, I'll eventually figure this out. Good Lord. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, and you Facebook or YouTube, I should be able to see both. So that's super cool. And if you have any questions in general, it doesn't have to be about what we talked about in, if you have any questions about the training group or anything like that. Like I said, if you're part of the training group, you have access to tonight's webinar, Sunday's webinar. I will get the link posted for you guys today. It's part of your membership, so you have access. And if you're thinking about signing up for the webinar, you can sign up for the group, and like that will give you access to not only all of the group stuff, which there's tons, and like my entire life's work is in that group, like all bunch of classes, all my training sessions, everything's in that group. And it also gives you access to all the past webinars I've done, as well as this one and Sundays. So I don't see any questions happening. So if you guys don't have anything, we'll probably go ahead and end this, unless you guys have anything you want to talk about. The only thing on this is I can't see like if somebody's typing. That does, at least on the other, like on Facebook, I can see if you're typing, and so I always kind of wait a minute. So yeah, and if you do have questions, if you're watching this as a recording or I turned it off and you were just getting ready to send a question, just post your question in the comments and I will respond to it as quick as I can today. And yeah, all right. If you go to my website, fluidmotionagility.com, under Train with Amanda, you'll find the webinar link. You also find any information about the groups, and my sponsorship is open, which that's super cool. Go click on that and check that out as well. All right, guys, thank you all for coming. I'm hoping to do more of these sort of things, these lives and stuff like that, doing like training topics and all sorts of cool stuff. So this was fun. All right, thanks everybody.